Hi, Kwe, Namalita, and this is my channel, The Midnight Librarian, and today I will be talking about my July TBR. So I have been struggling to try to get this TBR done. I am filming it in a weird part of the day, so I apologize for lighting. I have to turn my light on because it's getting darker. I'm filming this after work, so it's even more weird for me because I usually film on the weekends. Okay, so July, I suspect we'll be a little busy getting ready for the first part of July to go on our annual camping trip. You may remember that I do have a couple of vlogs where I've vlogged this camping trip before. I do plan on doing the same, and much like last year, it is during the same time as the Summerween readathon. This readathon is hosted by Gabby from Gabby Reads and Olivia from oliviareadsalatte. I absolutely love their merch this year. It's really cute, but essentially this readathon is to encourage you to read thriller and horror books outside of the
Why me? Why me?
outside of Halloween and fall. My apologies for my dogs. Sounds like my grandparents just showed up. So let's make this quick. There are 5 prompts that I hope to get done. My one thing with Summerween is that it's only a week long and it's during the week I'm going camping. So I do hope to fulfill each of the prompts, but I won't necessarily read them all 5 books within the week that I have. I'm hoping to spread it out over the month, though I do hope to be able to bring at least one of the books with me camping. I do have particular books in mind for this TBR, so I'm hoping that I'm able to fit that in to my Pokemon cards choose my TBR. So if you haven't seen this before, there is a playlist. I highly suggest you go check it out. I think it's really fun, but ultimately the gist is I have a variety of Pokemon booster packs for season 2. I pick one of the varieties by chance and open them. Each Pokemon type has a prompt attached to them, and I pick a book based off that prompt. My prompt list for each Pokemon type is in the description down below if you ever want to check it out and do it on your own, or find that you're struggling with figuring out what to pick up next. Could be a fun way to do so. So I'll quickly go over the types that I have, and then we'll go ahead and pick. I have Silver Tempest, Shining Fates, Astral Radiance. A new one that I added to this month is Brilliant Stars. Evolving Skies we're pretty familiar with. It's one that's the only one I had picked from in the last year. And then we have Lost Origins. So yeah, let me mix these up. And then we'll go ahead and pick one. Shining Fates. Ugh, oh my goodness. Okay, let's get this through this. Okay, I also have dinner on the stove, so I need to go check that soon. Okay, so let's go. Ready? This is a trainer card. It's Gym Trainer. We're gonna go ahead and put this aside for right now because Trainer is ultimately a mood read, and so early on in the game, I'm going to put that aside and see if any of the books that I want on this TBR don't get on there, and I'll try to do it that way. Okay. Basically saving it for last so that if I don't get a book on my TBR that I want, I'll pick it then. Okay, let's go with the next one. Tropius, which is a grass type Pokemon. Grass type is to read a book with some kind of botanical thing on the cover, so some kind of flora on the cover. I think I'm gonna go ahead and choose Nettle and Bone by T. Kingfisher. There are some silhouettes of plants on this UK edition of the cover, which I preferred over the US edition. There's also a tree if you need another thing. I did prefer the UK edition over the US edition, though I would have to say that I am jealous of the US edition's naked cover, as it has a gorgeous gold inlay of dog skeleton on it, but I'm still happy with this. But this will be my 3rd T. Kingfisher book, and ultimately trying to see if they're going to be a new favorite author. So this one in particular is not the fairy tale where a princess marries a prince. In fact, Mara, who is the youngest of 3 girls, finds that her sisters are married to abusive princes and no one's going to save them but Mara. So Mara has the help of a powerful grave witch, and in order to do that, to get the tools that she needs to fulfill 3 impossible tasks. That's all I know. That's all I really want to know. I know that folks have been talking about this, and yet I still have yet to be spoiled for it or question if I am really going to enjoy it or not, because I don't really remember what they were saying about it. But I know people have been talking about this, so that's what I'm picking for Tropius. Next is another trainer card that is Team Yell Towel. So it's another trainer card, so another mood read. I'll go ahead and put that aside. I'm really tempted to just go ahead and add the ones that I want to add now, but I'll wait. Okay, next. Okay, so this is an electric energy card, and so for energy cards, we take the type of Pokemon, the Pokemon type, and pick a book that has the color, the same color on it. This is a bit of a stretch. I might as well... Yeah, this is a bit of a stretch, but I'm picking it anyway. Because there is yellow on this cover, ultimately. And that is episode 13 by Craig DeLuey. This is another one that I have heard folks talk about, and I've heard ultimately mixed things about it, of whether they liked it or not. But ultimately, have yet to spoil myself for it. I know that Kayla from BooksandLala recently did a reading vlog where she read this book, but it was like the last one that she read, so I managed to like not spoil myself for it. And then there was another one, another booktuber who recently read it that was really disappointed in this. I have not read a Craig DeLuey before, but there is a bit of yellow here, and this book ultimately is on my Summerween readathon that I would like to read for it, and this fulfills the prompt of reading a book with orange and black on the cover, so it's working for all kind of colors lately. And this ultimately is the one that I would like to take with me camping, because it has nothing to do with nature or camping or killing people while camping. So that's ultimately why as well, but for some reason all throughout June all I could think was like, I want to read this while camping. Fade to Black is the newest hit ghost hunting reality TV show led by husband and wife team Matt and Claire Kirkland. It features a dedicated crew of ghost hunting experts. Episode 13 takes them to every ghost hunter's holy grail, the Paranormal Research Foundation. This crumbling derelict mansion holds secrets and clues about bizarre experiments that took place there in the 1970s. It's also undoubtedly haunted, and Matt hopes to use scientific techniques and high-tech gear to prove it. But as the house begins to slowly reveal itself to the crew, proof of an afterlife might not be everything Matt dreamed of. So yeah, I also think that this is mixed media, emails and text messages throughout, so that's ultimately what I'm excited about. I think it'll be a relatively easy read. Next. Oh my goodness. Okay. This is awesome. Wow. Okay. This is a full holo Ditto V. I think it's a V Holo. I don't have anything specific for V Holos or V Max, but for holographics, it's to read an anticipated book, and particularly for Ditto, which I love to see some first gen and second gen Pokemon in here, because that's what I grew up with. They're my nostalgia and straight to my heart, is a normal type, and a normal type is to read a contemporary. I need my phone. Goodreads has been failing today, which sucks because I have all my anticipated reads on there. Maybe it'll work. Dang it. Okay. I don't know. Okay. Okay, this throws me off because ultimately, like, I do have a contemporary I would like to read. Okay, I think I'm gonna try this one, which I'm really kind of nervous about, but it is one that I don't know why, but I do have it on my Libro wish list, and because Libro tends to be the only one that I can find, like, have access to right now. I should check Storygraph, but I haven't updated Storygraph in like a year, so that's my bad. But I think for this I'm gonna pick 0 Days by Ruth Ware. It did just recently come out. It came out June 19th. Here, let me scoot so you can see the But this is narrated by Imogen Church, from who I understand tends to narrate Ruth Ware's work. I have not read a Ruth Ware before, so I don't necessarily know if this is the one I should be starting out with, but it's the one I'm going to start out with. Hired by companies to break into buildings and hack security systems, Jack and her husband Gabe are the best penetration specialists in the business. But after a routine assignment goes horribly wrong, Jack arrives home to find her husband dead. To add to her horror, the police are closing in on their suspect, her. Suddenly on the run and quickly running out of options, Jack must decide who she can trust, and as she circles closer to the real killer in this unputdownable and heart-pounding mystery from an author whose propulsive prose keeps readers on the hook and refuses to let anyone off until all has been revealed. I think that's what I'm choosing for Ditto. This full holographic Ditto. So, yeah. I did have this as a possibility for the Summerween readathons because I think it's considered a thriller and there is a prompt to read a thriller, so I may end up just doing that instead of the one I originally picked. So yeah, I think I'm gonna do that. Okay, next. Oh my god, is this another holographic? It totally is. So this is a Galarian Berserker, which is the evolved form of a Galarian Meow. And it is holographic, so that means another anticipated read, which is awesome, and also a normal type. Okay, so I think with the Ditto, I felt like I had to choose something that was just recently came out. And for this one in particular, I am going to pick one that has been out, but I just recently got it already. So like, you know, with the full holographic, I'm allowed to buy a new book. In this case, an audiobook. And with this one, it's something like I would want to pick something that I would already have if possible. And for that, I think I'm going to choose Breathless by Amy McCulloch, which I guess has been out since 2022. I didn't know this. I actually recently added it to, like, this was an add-on for my June Book of the Month pick. So I'm kind of excited to read it, and I think that's what I'm going to go ahead and choose for this because, I mean, it's an anticipated read, whether it's been out for a year or two. I think it doesn't necessarily matter. With Reverse Hollows, it just has to be a backlist item. So for Breathless, we are following journalist Cicely Wong as she's come to Manaslu, the 8th highest peak in the world, to interview internationally famous mountaineer Charles McVeigh on the last leg of a record-breaking series of summits. She's given up everything for the story, her boyfriend, her life savings, the peace she's made with her climbing failures in the past, but it's a career-making opportunity. It could finally put her life back on track. But when one climber dies in what everyone else assumes is a freak accident, she fears their expedition is in danger. And by the time a second climber dies, it's too late to turn back. Stranded on a mountain in one of the most remote regions of the world, she'll have to battle more than the elements in a harrowing fight for survival against the killer who is picking them off one by one. So I think this sounds really interesting. I know that, I forget their name. I'll go ahead and leave their handle down below. Recently read this and wasn't finding it to their taste, which is fine. I'm really kind of letting go of thinking that if a booktuber that I follow doesn't like it, that I won't like it, mostly because I'm finding like we all have our unique tastes, and I don't necessarily love or hate any of the books that they happen to hate or love. So love or hate, vice versa, etc. Anyway, so I think this is one that I would like to try. This was the original one that I had for Thriller for the Summerween readathon. And I'm still wanting to read it, so I'll go ahead and plus it marks off my own personal challenge of reading a Book of the Month book for the month. So I need to go check my soup. Okay, I just checked my soup. It's doing okay, but I do need to finish this up because it is about time for the next step. So, next. This is Nicket, which I kept receiving in the last Evolving Skies ones, but this is at least a different a different illustration, so I don't mind it. But this is a dark Pokemon, which is to read a horror. So, oh, perfect. Okay, so I do have one that would work well for this. That is also on, I'm a little hesitant with this one, but I'm also fairly curious. So I'm going to go ahead for Nickit, which is a dark Pokemon, which is to read a horror. I'm going to choose Conjuring the Witch by Jessica Leonard, narrated by Linda Jones. This one is a novella and works for the prompt to read a novella, manga, or graphic novel for the Summerween prompt. There are witches in the woods. These are the words the Reverend of Lilin Assembly of Our Lord repeats to his parishioners each week. Steve and Nicole Warby think it's just a metaphor until Nicole takes a walk in those woods and comes back changed. Something came out of them with her. And the simple small town life they've always known is forever altered when they discover the dark secrets buried deep and those intent on keeping them there. Fearing for his wife's safety and his own comfortable status in the church, Steve is unsure if he wants to help or ignore the problems. The Reverend believes there are witches in the woods, and he thinks Nicole is only the most recent. Conjuring the Witch is a dark, haunted story about what those in power are willing to do to stay in power and the sins we convince ourselves are forgivable. Like I said, I'm a little hesitant for this one, but I'm also really curious just because of the religious aspect. The religion is, particularly Christianity and Catholicism, are ones that I tend to steer clear of because, one, I don't understand it, and two, there's been a lot done to Indigenous folks because of it. Yeah, but I'm also fairly curious about it. I think this is fairly relevant. So yeah, I'm going to choose that for next. This is Trapinch, which is a fighting Pokemon. A fighting Pokemon means to read a second chance author, and I kind of use that loosely as so long as I've read the author before. Doesn't necessarily have to be second chance. But for this, I'm going to go ahead and pick Fuzz by Mary Roach. This has been on my TBR before, and although I was able to read some of it, I put it on a soft DNF just because my interlibrary loan became due, and so I had to get another one. So I do have another physical copy. It just doesn't have the cover, so there's that. It also has some of my personal information on it, so I'm just not going to show it. But Fuzz by Mary Roach. Mary Roach I have read before, and I have thoughts, so which I will get more into once I finish Fuzz. Fuzz is ultimately seeing like what happens when a moose jaywalks, or what happens when a bear steals trash or is breaking and entering. And it ultimately has Mary Roach following fish and game wardens as well as animal attack specialists or forensic scientists to figure out, like, you know, who is in charge or what is the animal-human conflict and who resolves it, essentially. So I'm fairly curious about it. I think it'll be really interesting, particularly as I go camping in July. So yeah, that's what I'm picking for Trapinch. Next. This is Yanma, and this is another grass Pokemon, so another book with botanical elements on the cover. I think I'm doing pretty well in terms of balancing. So I think I'm gonna go ahead and pick up a Becky Chambers book. This is another one I have yet to haul, so apologies if you see this more than once in the coming month, but I'm gonna go ahead and pick a is it Palm or Psalm for the Wild Built by Becky Chambers. This is her newest series, I think, or duology. Let's see. It's been centuries since the robots of Panga gained self-awareness and laid down their roots. Centuries since they wandered en masse into a wilderness never to be seen again. Centuries since they faded into myth and urban legend. One day, the life of a tea monk is upended by the arrival of a robot, there to honor the old promise of checking in. The robot has one question: what do people need? But the answer to that question depends on who you ask and how. They're going to need to ask it a lot. So there is obviously some leaves and different flora on this cover to go with Yanma, so that's what I'm choosing, and it's gonna, I think, gonna be a relatively quick-ish read because it is just a little under 150 pages. So next, this is Buizel, which is a water Pokemon, and that is to read a book that is set in or around water. For that, I'm gonna go ahead and for Buizel, I'm gonna go ahead and pick The Line Tender by Kate Allen. This is a middle grade book, and I absolutely love the cover to it. This is one I put on my TBR and like soft DNF'd it a year or two ago. I'm not sure why. I don't think I was feeling it at the time, but it always seems like the perfect summer read to me, just because of the feel of the cover. As well as the synopsis, which is wherever the sharks led, Lucy, Everhart's marine biologist mother, was sure to follow. In fact, she was on a boat far off the coast of Massachusetts collecting shark data when she died suddenly. Lucy was 7. Since then, Lucy and her father have kept their heads above water, thanks in large part to a few close friends and neighbors. But on one steamy June day in the 12th in summer, the tide brings a great white, and then another tragedy, cutting short a friendship everyone insists was meaningful, but no one can tell Lucy what it all meant. To survive a new wave of griefs, Lucy must grab the line connecting her depressed father, a stubborn fisherman, and a curious old widower to her mother's unfinished research on the great white's return to Cape Cod. Only with their help and her mother's beloved sharks will Lucy finally be able to look beyond what she's lost and towards what's yet to be discovered. So this sounds particularly really fun. I love learning more about sharks in general. So, God, I love this cover though. So yeah, that's what I'm choosing for Buizel. And aside from my mood reads, this is the last one. Oh, perfect. This is Eevee, which is another contemporary read, normal type Pokemon. So I think for this one, I'm going to choose The Pallbearers Club by Paul Tremblay. I have an interlibrary loan coming to me for this one, though I am using Libro to read the synopsis because Goodreads is not working right now. I don't know, this one is set interestingly. I have not read a Paul Tremblay before. Let's see, a cleverly voiced psychological thriller from the national best-selling author of The Cabin at the End of the World and Survivor Song. What if the coolest girl you've ever met decided to be your friend? Art Barbara was so not cool. He was a 17-year-old high school loner in the late 1980s who listened to hair metal, had to wear a monstrous back brace at night for his scoliosis, and started an extracurricular club for volunteer pallbearers at poorly attended funerals. But his new friend thought the Pallbearers Club was cool, and she brought along her Polaroid camera to take pictures of the corpses. Okay, that part was a little weird. So was her obsessive knowledge of a notorious bit of New England folklore that involved digging up the dead. And there were other strange things, terrifying things that happened when she was around, usually at night, but she was his friend, so it was okay, right? Decades later, Art tries to make sense of it all by writing The Pallbearers Club, a memoir, but somehow his friend got her hands on the manuscript, and well, she has some issues with it, and she's making some cuts. Seamlessly blurring the lines between fiction and memory, the supernatural and mundane, The Pallbearers Club is an immense, suspenseful portrait of unusual and disconcerting relationship. So from what I understand, it's like written like a normal book, but then there's like little things scribbled in the margins of where like this girl ended up putting her own opinions or her own memories of the situation. So I think it's going to be really interesting, and it feels really weird to choose that with like as cute a Pokemon as Eevee is, but that's what I'm thinking, just because I know that it's coming in for interlibrary loan. And that's what I'm feeling right now. So then we have 2 trainer cards, one in particular that I know I would like to read, and we'll go ahead and do the Team Yell Tower for that. So I know I want to read the 4th book of the TBR series, and I believe it's the League of Dragons, but because for some reason in Libro's app it's not telling me which one it is in the TBR series, I'm kind of guessing just because of what's in order. So I believe it's the League of Dragons. If not, I'll have the actual what it actually is here. But basically this is the 4th book in the TBR series. I did manage to read the 3rd book in June. I'll have more thoughts on that later in my wrap up if you want to check that out. But basically the TBR series is following Captain William Lawrence, who was a naval captain who ends up capturing a French frigate during the Napoleonic War. They're still in the Napoleonic War, and there was a dragon egg on that French frigate that ends up hatching and producing a dragon, obviously, named TBR. Captain William Lawrence and his crewmen were due to being in the British Royal Navy, are kind of bound to make sure that they harness the dragon, and William Lawrence is the one that the dragon lets harness him. So instead of a captain of a naval ship, Captain Lawrence is now the captain of a dragon in the Royal Air Force as opposed to the British Navy. So we then kind of just get his experience in terms of what it means to be a dragon rider in the Napoleonic era, and particularly with the British Royal Air Force. So far it's been really interesting just because we've seen not only how the British treat their dragons, but other countries as well. And the 3rd one, they're finally going back to Britain, and TBR has quite the rebellious streak with him, and we also added a couple of new dragons to the crew. So it's interesting. It'll be interesting to see how they turn out. I'm loving the introduction to new dragons and what their specialties are, as well as their own personalities. So it's been really fun, and it's been really enjoyable. It's like I typically am fairly wary of a long series, and this is a 9-book series, but this one I'm like really enjoying. So yeah, that's what I'm hoping to read for a Team Yell Towel. For Gym Trainer, we're going to keep on with the Dragon Train and go ahead and read To Shape a Dragon's Breath by Montekiel Blackgoose. This a young indigenous woman enters a colonized-run dragon academy and quickly finds herself at odds with the approved way of doing things in the 1st book of a brilliant new fantasy series. The remote island of Mascapag has not seen a dragon in many generations until 15-year-old Anequas finds a dragon's egg and bonds with its hatchling. Her people are delighted, for all remember the days when dragons lived among them and danced away the storms of autumn, enabling the people to thrive. To them, Anequas is revered as, I'm going to say this wrong, I apologize, Nampesh Iwisit, a person in a unique relationship with a dragon. Unfortunately for Anequas, the English conquerors of her land have different opinions. They have a very specific idea of how a dragon should be raised and who should be doing the raising. And Anequas does not meet any of their requirements. Only with great reluctance do they allow Anequas to enroll in a proper English dragon school on the mainland. If she cannot succeed there, her dragon will be killed. For a girl with no formal schooling, a non-English upbringing, and a very different understanding of the history of her land, challenges abound, both socially and academically, but Anequas is smart, determined, and resolved to learn what she needs to help her dragon, even if it means teaching herself. The one thing she refuses to do, however, is become the meek English miss that everyone expects. So this one I think is going to be really interesting. Right now I'm like all about dragons as well as trying to find that perfect witch book, but that's going to be put on pause for the time being as I venture to find the perfect dragon book. So this one I think should be really interesting, as I'm finding that I really do enjoy fantasy, so particularly more so if it's not so Western focused. So this one should be really interesting with an indigenous point of view. I'm really excited about it. This is one of my anticipated books of the year, so that's what I'm going to go ahead and choose for the Gym Trainer. All right, those are my books for the month of July. Not bad, I think. I think I have a good amount of both physical and audiobooks, so I think it should be okay. Like I said, I'm really hoping that being going camping and being riverbound will allow me to have some time to be able to read. So yeah, I'm excited. I'm super excited for this TBR. You've read any of the books? Please let me know your thoughts down in the comments down below. Please no spoilers. Otherwise, let me know what you plan on reading for the month of July if you're participating in Summerween. I don't think that was all of the prompts, in all honesty, for Summerween. If I remember correctly, I think there's one more to read a book at night, which I think I'm pretty sure can be any of these. And yeah. Yeah, I didn't plan that well. Okay, so yeah, there is a prompt of to read a book at night, which could be any of the physical books in my opinion. Oh my goodness. Okay. I did say I wanted a horror-y, thrillery books on there. So, takes place in fall. I didn't get read a book at night. I didn't get. Okay. So, I think for read a book at night to be thriller-y, horror-y, I'm going to go ahead and do This Delicious Death by Kayla Cottingham. This is another book that I was really kind of hoping for, anticipating for this year. This summer is going to get gory. 2 years ago, a small percentage of the population underwent transformation known as the Hollowing. Those affected were only able to survive by consuming human flesh. The people who went without quickly became feral, turning their friends and family. Luckily, scientists were able to create a synthetic version of human meat that would satisfy their hunger. As a result, humanity slowly began to return to normal. Cut to Zoe, Celeste, Valeria, and Jasmine, 4 Holo girls living in Southern California. As a last hurrah before graduation, they attend a music festival in the heart of the desert. They have a cooler filled with seltzer, vodka, and sin flesh and are ready to party. But on the first night of the festival, Val goes feral and ends up killing and eating a boy in one of the bands. As other festival guests start disappearing around them, the girls soon discover someone is targeting people like them. If they can't figure out how to stop it, and soon no one at the festival is getting out alive. So I think this will be fun as well. I think all of these will be fun ultimately. And also, I don't know which of these. I know that To Shape a Dragon's Breath is set in fall, so I think I may just kind of cheat and use that. I know I said I wanted horror or thrillery, but this is getting a little ridiculous now in terms of how many books I am now reading. But it is ultimately, I don't hold myself to reading all of these, just as much as I can if possible. So with that note, let's go ahead, and if you made it this far, let's go ahead and leave a ghost emoji for Summerween, because that is their art this year that I am absolutely loving. Yeah, otherwise be sure to give this video a like, subscribe if you want to see more of me, and I hope that you are in the mental mindset to enjoy your reading. I will see you in another video very soon. Chew.